Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The bold and the beautiful spoilers reveal that Thomas Forrester, Matthew Atkinson, is coming back in September 2025. There are no clues about his return storyline, but could it be about Grace Buckingham, Cassandra Creech? Maybe Reese Buckingham's, Wayne Brady, debtors target Paris Buckingham, Diamond White. Anyway, fans will see Thomas return in September 2025. The details about his storyline are still under wraps. However, there are a few possibilities. It could be just to attend Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Budig, wedding. However, with Ridge Forrester, Thorsten Kaye, making that promise to Brooke Logan, Catherine Kelly Lang, there could be drama. Thomas could also come back once he learns about Luna Nozawa, Lisa Yamada, being alive. The man might decide to come back to Los Angeles to make sure that it's safe for Steffi Forrester Finnegan, Jacqueline Missinswood, or to deal with Luna himself. There is also Hope Logan's, Annika Noel, a coming wedding to Carter Walton, Lawrence St. Victor. There is no mention of if Paris Buckingham, Diamond White, is returning with Thomas. Since they are getting married, it would make sense if they both come back, especially if it's for Taylor and Ridge's wedding. However, there is no word on Paris returning with Thomas. So I wonder if that could be due to Grace's scheme. A few years ago, head writer and executive producer Bradley Bell mentioned in an interview that his father taught him a good storyline lasts at least 8 months. I can't remember who the interview was with or even what year it was. However, I remember that statement and I also recall disagreeing with it. Moving forward, it seems Grace was exposed rather quickly for a soap opera. So that tells me that there is still more to her story. With Bill Spencer, Don Diamond, around, Grace might not stay behind bars for long. The bold and the beautiful spoilers reveal that fans could see Grace and Thomas' stories intertwine. Was it Thomas that Grace was speaking to on the phone when Bill was transferring the money? We haven't seen Thomas in a long time. We did see Grace make a phone call to Paris. However, it sounded like she was leaving a message rather than talking to her daughter. So maybe Reese's debtors have already taken action? Could they have kidnapped Paris, and maybe Grace just doesn't know it yet? The streets of Los Angeles are no strangers to scandal, heartbreak, and secrets buried under layers of designer clothing and champagne toasts. Yet, as summer heats up, the bold and the beautiful is preparing to throw fans a shocking new twist that no one quite saw coming. Thomas Forrester and Dr. Grace Buckingham crossing paths in a way that could shake the foundations of multiple families. The buzz around Thomas' return already had fans speculating. Would he rejoin Forrester Creations, reclaim his place in Hope's life, or even pursue redemption after years of dark choices? Meanwhile, Grace, who's often been relegated to the role of overprotective mother meddling in Paris's love life, has been overdue for a major story arc. Pairing these two may feel unexpected at first, but in true soap fashion, it could set off a chain reaction of secrets, betrayals, and twists that rip through the canvas. Thomas has been off-screen for months, a move that left viewers wondering if the writers were giving his character a much-needed breather. When he returns, though, he doesn't just stroll into Forrester Creations with new sketches. Instead, he reappears with a mysterious air about him, as if carrying a secret he isn't ready to share. At first, everyone assumes it has to do with Hope. Brooke warns Ridge that Thomas will always be obsessed with her daughter. Ridge wants to believe Thomas has changed, but even Steffi notices her brother seems distracted, distant, even haunted. The truth? Thomas has crossed paths with someone outside the Forrester orbit. Someone who challenges him, pushes him, and much to everyone's shock, intrigues him. Dr. Grace Buckingham. For too long, Grace has existed in the background as Paris's protective mother and Zoe's occasional voice of wisdom. But Grace has her own life, her own vulnerabilities, and her own loneliness. The Buckingham family has endured so much scandal, Zoe's involvement in the baby Beth secret, Reese Buckingham's crimes. that Grace has often been forced into the role of crisis manager instead of living for herself. When she meets Thomas, perhaps through a Forrester charity event, or even by chance at Il Giardino, sparks unexpectedly fly. Thomas is younger, yes, but Grace is struck by his honesty about his past and his desire to start over. In Thomas, Grace sees a man who has been judged, maligned, and abandoned by many, yet who still longs for redemption. And in Grace, Thomas finds a maternal warmth mixed with fierce independence. She doesn't treat him like a fragile project the way Hope and Ridge do. Instead, she challenges him, forcing him to confront his demons instead of running from them. What begins as conversation turns into late-night meetings, which then spirals into something far more intimate. If Thomas and Grace begin a secret romance, the ripple effects would be enormous. Both know how explosive it would be if their families found out. Paris would be horrified. Her mother involved with a Forrester? Especially Thomas, whose reputation for manipulation precedes him. Carter might feel betrayed, given his connection to Paris and his lingering resentment toward Forrester scandals. Hope would spiral at the thought of Thomas once again keeping secrets, especially one this scandalous. Steffi would outright explode, her brother involved with Paris's mother? She'd see it as reckless, humiliating, and dangerous for the family image. This isn't just about love, it's about scandal, legacy, and what happens when people cross lines that were never meant to blur. But what if Grace isn't simply falling for Thomas? What if she has her own reasons for attaching herself to a Forrester after all? Grace has seen how the Forresters wield power in Los Angeles. Her family has been humiliated by Reese's actions, and Zoe was written out after years of disgrace. Paris is still struggling to maintain her footing, often overshadowed by Zend and the more dominant Forrester heirs. Could Grace see Thomas as more than just a romantic partner, but as a way to cement her family's place within the powerful Forrester dynasty? If Grace pushes Thomas toward reclaiming his spot at Forrester Creations, even urging him to fight for custody of Douglas again, the drama would escalate into a battlefield between families. Ridge and Brooke would question her motives. Steffi would accuse Grace of manipulating her brother, and Paris would be torn between loyalty to her mother and her own independence. Another possible twist: what if Thomas, in his attempt to prove he's not obsessed with Hope anymore, throws himself fully into Grace, only to repeat the same patterns? We've seen Thomas spiral into obsession before. What if Grace becomes his latest fixation? Unlike Hope, however, Grace is older, wiser, and not easily manipulated. This could create a dynamic where Thomas's darker tendencies re-emerge, while Grace tries to maintain control. Would she truly love him, or would she fear she's in over her head? The real fireworks will begin when Paris stumbles upon the truth. Imagine Paris walking into Il Giardino one night and seeing her mother and Thomas in an intimate embrace. Shock, betrayal, and fury would wash over her. She's always tried to carve out her own space in Los Angeles, separate from her family's mistakes. Now her mother is entangling herself in a scandal that threatens to undo everything Paris has worked for. Paris confronting Grace could become a defining moment. The daughter who once needed her mother's protection might now be the one giving warnings. If you think Thomas Forrester will bring you happiness, you're wrong. He destroys everything he touches. But Grace, emboldened by her feelings, might argue that Paris doesn't understand love, or that Thomas deserves a second chance. The fallout could even fracture their once close mother-daughter bond. When Ridge learns of his son's involvement with Grace, his reaction would be nothing short of volcanic. Not only would he see it as reckless, but he'd also feel betrayed. Ridge has spent years defending Thomas, trying to help him rebuild his life. Now Thomas is involved in a scandal that could bring more shame to the Forrester name. But Ridge's anger may also have a personal edge. Could he secretly feel threatened by Grace? She's poised, intelligent, and outspoken. The kind of woman Ridge himself might have been drawn to under different circumstances. His fury at Thomas could mask an uncomfortable attraction of his own. Brooke, of course, would fan the flames, warning that Thomas hasn't changed at all. She'd likely accuse Grace of exploiting Thomas for her own gain, setting the stage for more Forrester versus Logan battles. If Douglas sees his father with Grace, confusion could spiral into emotional turmoil. He might like Grace, but he'd also worry about what this means for Hope and the stability he's fought so hard to keep. Hope, naturally, would step in, worried that Douglas is once again being exposed to chaos. This could reignite custody battles, with Hope questioning Thomas's judgment and ability to parent responsibly. In the worst-case scenario, Douglas could even distance himself from Thomas again, breaking his father's heart just when Thomas thought he was building something real. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe our BOLD and BAUTIFUL UPDAT YouTube channel for more update news.